Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
I'm Michelle.
This is a post-Geekout reaction for the season finale to Bojack Horseman. Now, normally when we do a post-Geekout reaction to a TV show, we do a little bit of a summary of the entire season, or maybe even the entire series, if it was the series finale. We're not going to do that because we just got done talking for an hour about the Good Place finale. Whose idea was it to have these two happen at the same time? But I will just go ahead and say...
I don't know if you even can do, a recap, because, so much shit happens.
You couldn't. You couldn't, because not only does a lot of shit happen, nothing really follows from one season to the next all that much, because every single season has its own theme, but rarely is that theme, a lot of times this will happen because of the thing that happened at the end of this season. But then we kind of drop everything that happened in that season to focus on the stuff going on in this season. Does anybody remember that Mr. Peanut Butter once ran for governor or mayor or something? I don't even remember that one. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's happened in the show. There hasn't been an overarching plot in Bojack Horseman. There's been an overarching theme, though, and the theme is life sucks, and all you can do is just try and be better, but a lot of us can't do that because we're flawed individuals, and sometimes that's how everything works out. This has been one of the darkest television shows I've ever seen, one of the smartest television shows, one of the boldest television shows, and it's about an anthropomorphic horse guy who used to be, a Fuller House kind of dad in the 90s. He used to have a sitcom back in the 90s, and now he is a washed-up actor trying to get his career back. And that's how the series began, and it became about so much more than that. And I look at this, and I think, if you want any kind of evidence that the Netflix philosophy of how to release television shows works, it's Bojack Horseman. Because this thing went on for 6 seasons, and is one of the biggest successes that Netflix has had. It's one of the most critically praised shows that Netflix has ever had. This thing would not have made it halfway through its first season if it was on regular television.
Yes, I know, a lot of people, did not like the first season of Bojack.
Okay, because I didn't like the first couple episodes.
Yeah, well, first couple episodes, first season.
That's kind of how I've always been on almost every season of Bojack. Every season of Bojack Horseman always begins with me going in and going, man, after what happened last season, I can't wait to see where we begin on this one. What's going to happen in this one? Man, I don't know if I'm emotionally prepared for this. And then I always go about 3 or 4 episodes into the new season just going, why am I watching this stupid show? Because Bojack Horseman has some of the goofiest jokes of any show that I've seen. Some of the most, I'm not going to say bottom of the barrel, but because they are clever. They are actually clever, but they're almost clever in the way that a Bazooka Joe comic strip is clever. They're just very weird jokes that you look at and go, who on earth would think so like this? And I guess it's kind of funny.
It's a world where humans and anthropomorphic animals live together, so of course there's gonna be a lot of animal puns.
There's so many puns. There's so many just jokes about animals. Yeah. But there's also so many just weird references to Hollywood, and not really cutting deep references, but so many hey, are you blah 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 because you're blah 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 blah. That's a lot of the jokes in here. And I look at that and I just think, yeah, that's a word sure, fine, whatever. But it's got that perfect level of intrigue and just enough humor in the first episodes to make you go, do I want to reach for the controller and turn off Netflix right now? Because it's going into the next episode right now. Alright, I'll watch another one. That one was fine too. Fucking, I'm not doing anything. Yeah, alright, episode 3, you're starting up. You get to the end of episode 3. Are you still watching Bojack Horseman? I guess I am. Click. Alright, episode 4, here we come. Sure, well, I'm bored. I'll watch it. And then you get to the end of the first season, you're just like, oh my, what? Oh my, what's happening? And then you go into season 2, and it's, oh wow, we're back to the really stupid one-off jokes that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Fine, we're doing this. Well, maybe I'll pick back up. Oh my god, I picked back up. Oh, what happened with this? And what's going to happen with those characters? And oh my god, what's happening with that character over there? And oh my god, everything is so deep and I can't contain it all. And okay, season 3. All right, we're back into the. Oh my god, we're back. That's how every single season of this has been. But the last 2 seasons were just pure, serious times. Now we're all serious now. And you're so intrigued, and you just want to see what happens to these characters in here. And
like even like during the serious episodes, there's still comedy,
Yes.
and I really admire that. This is not a dramedy. It's not a comedy. It's a dramedy. Like I said, drama, not comedy. It's dramedy. Yes, it's a good combination.
I love that you said this is not a dramedy. What the fuck is it then? Oh, I want to know the answer to this. All right.
No. I just cut to the point by accident.
I do that all the time. Yes. Yeah, this is an amazing dramedy. It's one of the best explorations of characters I've ever seen in any show. And the crazy thing is, the jokes really help with that. The jokes help for two reasons. One is because after time goes on, like I said, the jokes are not great in those first couple episodes. And it's not like the jokes ever change all that much, but eventually after you watch enough of these, you get into the vibe. Like you start vibrating at the right frequencies to line up with this show, and you now understand the humor in here. And you start enjoying it. You start loving this humor in here. I think this show is a brilliantly funny television series after you get used to what the style of humor is.
Yeah, exactly.
But, like we said, it's so many just like goofy puns and just lame references and just weird off-the-wall jokes. But then you smash cut that with the really soul-crushing drama of this. And it makes you go, wow, that comedy is there to make me just drop all defenses. Just make me just open up and go, well, I guess I'm safe now, because no way is anything dramatic going to happen after you have jokes like that. And boom! Just... You can pause as I'm watching this go, watch. You can watch the exact moment his heart breaks. Yeah, it's amazing how that sense of humor works in here. But also, a lot of the really deep moments in here come from situations that can only work in this bizarre world that they have created. And you would not be accepting of this bizarre world without the off-the-wall goofy comedy. It worked in order to get you at the right place where you need to be to accept the big dramatic stuff in here. Sometimes they need the goofy comedy to move you to that point. Like there's that one episode where Bojack Horseman, he goes to this undersea city for a film festival, and it's a completely silent episode because he can't talk anymore, so he's got like a fishbowl on his head. And he finds like this little kid, and he has to find that kid's parents. No dialogue or anything, but it's just one weird adventure after another. But it's you watching Bojack slowly like bonding with this kid without any words in there. You wouldn't be accepting of the adventures of a horseman under the sea with no words bonding with a child unless the goofy comedy in here got you to the point where you're willing to accept stuff like that. Yeah, it is a genius show in how they're able to do stuff like that. But we're going to go into the final season here. More specifically, the last half of this final season, because this is the first time that they ever divide the seasons up into part 1, part 2, and I feel like that was a really smart idea on their part, because the first half of season 1 ends with almost everyone's life falling apart, except for Bojack's, who's actually working out. Like, Bojack has stopped dyeing his hair, he's accepted all the things that have happened to him in his life, and he's no longer trying to get his career back. Instead, he's gone off to a college where he can be the acting professor. And he's comfortable with that. And he's okay with that. And that's a big, like, important word in here. Comfortable. A large theme of this show is learning to be comfortable with who you are and where you are at. Because when the show began, Bojack, he wanted his career back. He wanted it back so bad. He wanted to turn everything around. He wanted to be that big star again. And he was desperate to get that to happen, no matter what. And this entire series has been like step by step, him just learning to be okay with it, but it's not step by step of him growing a little bit each season. It's been like step by step of growing, falling dramatically, growing back up, falling back down, like over and over.
And that's what feels so real about it, because that's how people are.
Yeah.
You're gonna have relapses and shit.
Yes,
so.
and this entire relapse is the theme of this series.
Yeah.
In many ways. But then at the end of that like cliffhanger, we see that Bojack is getting everything together. But it's also revealed there are some reporters who are hunting down like this story about Sarah Lynn, the actress who used to be on the show with him, and how she died. And we all know how she died because Bojack was there for one of the seasons. And we know that's going to come back around. So this entire season was, okay, you're building all this stuff up. Bojack's in a good place right now. What's going to happen to him? When is all the dominoes that you've just set up going to get knocked down? And then this season was Bojack gets found out. Bojack goes on an interview, and at first everything is fine. The interview, he admits to stuff, and he comes clean about some things, and people applaud him for it. Then they want him to come back the next night. And he goes back the next night, and now they just drill into him, and they reveal so much more about him, and he comes off as a complete creep. But it's not like the media did a hit job on him. These are the things we have seen happen to him throughout the course of this series. They're right. Like, we want to look at him and go, stop being mean to Bojack, because we've followed Bojack, and we know Bojack. This was the episode in which they told us, you gotta step back and realize the shit you have been watching him do this entire time.
That's like such an interesting thing about Bojack is he's not a good guy.
No.
He's a shitty person, and...
He's a shitty person who doesn't want to be a shitty person.
Yeah.
And I always find characters like that really impressive when you can pull it off. So many people can't pull it off, and you just have a shitty person. But when you have a shitty person who wants to not be a shitty person, you create a really complex character if you can do that well. And this show did that so well. But I love that the thing that got him in trouble was he had done it. He faced it. He faced the thing he was afraid of facing. He did. And everything was okay. But he wanted more. Yeah. And that was always the theme of Bojack. He could have learned the lesson, and he didn't learn the lesson. And that's one of the wild things about this final season is that any other show out there would be like, yeah, it's the final season. We have to have the character learn the lesson. This show comes in here and goes, this is a show about how shitty life is. And in life, sometimes shitty people don't learn the lesson they need to learn. And he has to go back for that second interview because he's so happy with how happy people are with him. I'm sorry, were you about to say something?
Well, it kind of reminds me of like whenever a YouTuber makes an apology video, and it's like they do it for the clout, basically.
Trying not to bring up names. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like I understand like what this is doing and everything.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I mean that's not something specific to YouTube. That's just something specific to fame.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen those people out there who come in here and make okay, well, I'm sorry about this. Next week, I'm really sorry about this. Next week, you guys don't understand all this. You guys have been lied to. You don't know my side of the story. And now they just turn into shit, which that's the thing that I was impressed about this, is that there came a moment in here in which it looked like Bojack was going to go down a specific route. Because when you're a celebrity who's in the public eye, and people now turn on you for the shitty things that you have done, there's two routes you can go down. There's the route of, oh man, I deserve all the shitty things that have happened to me. I need to learn from this. And then there's the other route where you can turn that shit around and go, it's not my fault, it's all your fault. And you know what? We need to talk about cancel culture, everyone. And then you get all those fans like, yeah, you know what? Fuck all those people out there who said that you doing this terrible thing and that one was a bad thing. I'm on your side. And then you bring together that crowd of shitty people to come together and support you. There's that moment where it looks like that's going to happen. Because there's that moment where he gets his new sponsor, who's just this awful, shitty Hollywood person. But then he also goes out to a frat party, and at the frat party, everybody is coming together going, listen, man, you got a bum deal. Listen, that lady, she totally steamrolled you in that interview, man. We know that you're not a bad guy. Hey, come out drinking with us tonight. And I was like, oh, God, please tell me that the rest of this show isn't him just going, yeah, I am a bad person, all right? But you know what? All of you are bad people, too. And I'm better than all of you. Like, I thought that's where he was going to go. And it didn't. I'm impressed that that's where it didn't go. But where it went was he ends up relapsing hard. And he ends up confronting the producer who ended up firing his friend Herb from
his sitcom show. Yeah.
And that was one of the first things that really was like a big dramatic thing in this series. And he had to confront her on this, and he had to sign away the rights to his show, the thing he had been holding on to this entire time. He no longer could like really mention that he was on the show, like the thing that he had been mentioning nonstop.
Yeah, he couldn't do it like he's in like such deep shit.
Like they can't promote like reruns of the show. They can't do anything as long as he's connected to it anyway. And he goes on a drinking bender. Like he had been sober for like a year now at this point. And he starts drinking again, and he almost dies. And that's where like the penultimate episode, the episode right before the end, it's him, like, it's his brain just shutting down.
Yeah.
And him just seeing all the other people who have died throughout the course of this show. And I keep looking at this, they're having a dinner party, talking about the best part of their life, the worst part of their life. They all have to go up and do a talent show for everyone. And I keep looking at this, and just thinking this has to be a reference to something smart. This has to be a reference to like some film or some book, and I'm just not smart enough to get. Because this show is insanely smart. Like, it's smart in that level that, like, early Simpsons was smart. Where they would just stop to make reference to, like, a European film that no one in America had seen at that point. Just because, fuck it, we're gonna do it because we like it, and we're smart, and we know this. And this show has never been afraid to be smart. There's that episode that I am stunned that, like, this show didn't win Emmy for this one episode. It was the one, I don't know if you were there for it, but it was the one with as Mom's funeral.
Oh, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember that one. But it was him just giving the eulogy at her funeral. And it's just that. The entire episode is him giving the eulogy. There are no other characters in this. There's no shots of the crowd. It's just him on stage the entire time, just making a speech for half an hour long. Like, I don't even think the camera cuts. And you could not do this in regular TV. You can only do this in animation. And they would, because you would, of course, have to take breaks. You couldn't redo the entire thing from start to finish. And it's amazing to me that they just did that. And it's not like there were any jokes in there. In fact, anytime he even tried to do a joke, they would hold on there just awkwardly after he says it. And you can tell he's not saying it to be funny. He's just saying it to like try and deal with what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's so crazy. And there's only one actual joke in the entire episode. And it's at the very end. And it's what the entire episode was leading to. And it's one of the most brilliant jokes I've seen of anything ever. And it's a joke that could only work in this show. So this is a show that has always been bold. And it's always been smart. Like this season, there's a Pagliacci joke in here that I just looked at and went, that is genius. Because there was an episode like 2 seasons ago when Mr. Peanut Butter was all down because everything was going wrong for Mr. Peanut Butter. And they tried to resurrect his career by turning him into a meme. Mm-hmm. They took a photo of him on a park bench looking sad, and they tried to get trending as Sad Dog. Mm-hmm. And that became a big thing, which I love that every now and again, like when Mr. Peanut Butter is talking to someone, you'll see someone in the background go, hey, Sad Dog, and take a photo of him. Mm-hmm. There's a joke this season where he is talking about his problems, and he said, well, you know, I went off to my doctor, and I went up to my doctor, and I said I was feeling depressed. And he said, if you're feeling depressed, you should look at this funny internet meme, Sad Dog. I said, but doctor, I am Sad Dog. And I just sat there and went, you just made a modern-day Pagliacci joke. Oh my God, that's smart. But yeah, that's the level of genius that this show is. I can't even remember what got me on this tangent about how smart it is. Oh yeah, the episode where everyone was dead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the penultimate episode is him dying. And it's his brain shutting down, and you just see this inky black ooze just leaking into all the rooms. And it ends with like that ooze just sucking everything up. And the very end of it is him calling up Diane, this person who was there with him at the beginning. And now she's split away, and he's just trying to contact her again. And it's crazy to me to think that he hasn't even seen her in like a year at this point. No, she came to his play, I think. She came to the student's play, so she was there for that. But yeah, it's crazy that this whole series began about the relationship between Diane and Bojack. And then at the end of this, it's like they're not even they talk to each other once a season. That's all they do, because they're each living their own lives now. The end of this is him just on a phone call with Diane, and her just going, Bojack, I don't live there anymore. I can't do anything for you. Oh, that's right. So I'm really dying. Yeah, but I can be with you here. I can be here with you until you're gone. Okay. And then he just gets swallowed up by the black ooze at the end of this. And we're like, we only have one episode left. Are they going to go out and kill Bojack? Because in a way, Bojack has done so many terrible things throughout the show that it's not like you could redeem him in a season. You couldn't like have all that get redeemed. And it almost felt like they were going to do that by having him get the teaching job. But then at the end, they come in here and they go, yeah, but that's not redemption for him. That's not him confronting the terrible things that happened. Mm-hmm. A person who did bad things, just moving on with their life, you want to root that on as the audience because you have watched this person for 6 years now and you like that person, but that person did terrible things.
Yes, and they have to face the consequences.
They have to face the consequences for the things that they did. And I thought, well, there's no way you can do that in a season. So are you just going to kill him? Because, wow, I can't believe that you'd be willing to do that. Next episode is revealed that he's alive, but he gets trialed for breaking into someone's house, gets sent off to jail for a year, and then this entire episode is him going off to his former agent, Princess Carolyn's wedding. And it's just him seeing everybody after being gone in prison for a year. And you look at it, and it's like Todd's now got the good relationship with his mom again. Princess Carolyn married Jonah, which Jonah's one of the best characters of any show that I've ever seen. I love Jonah. Jonah, I want to appear in other shows, and God, what's his name? Not D. Bradley Baker, Diedrich Bader. That guy did a phenomenal job with that character. But she's getting married, and they're all fine, and she's happy. Her career's going fine. She's starting up her own studio. And Diane moved in with her boyfriend down in Houston, and they're married, and everything's working out, and she's writing this good book, which we gotta get to Diane in a second. We have to get to Diane in a second. But it ends with everything worked out for everyone, except for Bojack. But before he went to jail, Bojack filmed this just really shitty, crass movie because no one would hire him. So his shitty AA friend convinced him to do this really bad-sounding, raunchy comedy, and now that's getting released. And at the wedding, they're talking about, yeah, it's getting released, and it's got really good word of mouth, like it's tracking really well. Everybody's forgotten the terrible things you did. That's what happens in Hollywood. Everybody just forgets the terrible things you did. Your career could be coming back after this. And this ends with Bojack now afraid of what tomorrow might hold. Because he's sober now because he's been in jail for a year. But he was sober for a year before that. He might get out and just relapse again. And he might get his career back. Or he might not. And he might do other terrible, shitty things. Bojack does not really get anything at the end of this. And I feel like this ending is going to be very divisive. I feel like it's going to be very divisive because I believe that a lot of people are going to look at this and they're going to say to themselves, he doesn't get any, he doesn't either get the ultimate punishment or he doesn't get the ultimate success. He doesn't get anything. He doesn't even get any kind of peace inside of himself, but also nothing's really, he went to jail, but he's going to get out and he's going to be fine. We see at this party that it's not going to have any long-term consequences on him. That's it. Nothing really happens for Bojack. It's the same thing what's been happening for him is going to be the same thing that's going to be continuing to happen to him forever and ever. That's it. That's the ending. I feel like that's going to be very divisive for people. And it was divisive for me. I did not really like that. That's how I decided to end for Bojack, that there really wasn't a period mark on this. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that's exactly how this show should go out.
It's I remember you talking about, in The Good Place, not everything needs to have a fairy tale ending.
Yes.
And Bojack Horseman is not one of the shows that has a fairy tale ending.
But also, again, we talk about how there is a theme to the show. This show did not have an overarching plot. It had an overarching theme. The overarching theme is, life sucks. And we just keep trying to do our best, and who knows what's going to happen. And that's what this ending is.
Yeah.
Bojack, life sucked, but you also did shitty things. So now just keep trying to do your best, but we don't know what's going to happen. That's what happens at Bojack.
Literally, the end, Bojack says, life sucks and you die, but Diane says, yeah, but sometimes life sucks and you live on.
And that's what the plot is.
Yes.
That's what happens for Bojack at the end. Life sucks, and he's still alive. Maybe he keeps going. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it won't. Maybe he will die. Who knows what will happen to him? But that's what the show is. They, at the end, come in here and just flat out say, this is the plot. But yeah, again, it's not an ending that gives you that sense of satisfaction. I don't mean satisfaction as in Bojack got a good ending. I mean Bojack got an ending. Even when a character has a bad ending, you get, you get the satisfaction of knowing that's the ending. That's it. That's what I came here for. I saw it to completion. And it doesn't give you that sense of satisfaction because the show's yeah, that's not what this is about. This is so, it's so weird to me to think about. This is a show filled with talking animal people and puns and all this crap. And yet at the end, this thing is like a French noir film of just life. That's what this show is. And again, this could not have existed anywhere outside of Netflix. But I said I want to mention Diane. I love what they did with Diane this year. Because, again, you talk about something that really sums up the theme of this show. I think Diane's journey kind of sums that up. Mm-hmm. Because, first off, I gotta say, I love that this season, she had been one of the most tortured characters this entire season. This season, she got on antidepressants. And she mentioned, I don't want to do that because the last time that I did that, I couldn't think and I gained all this weight. And she gained all this weight. But the show never treats that like it's a bad thing.
No.
Like her boyfriend, who is one of the most loving, supporting boyfriends this show could have in a role, he came in and he never once comments on her weight. He never once comes in here and says anything like, yeah, I don't find you attractive anymore. No, that's never even like mentioned by anybody. Like nobody ever even mentions, like Bojack when he sees her, doesn't even mention her weight or anything. It's just, yeah, you gained weight. That happened. You're still you. But there is that thought of, well, yeah, but I need to write this book. I need to write my memoirs about my life, and I can't concentrate if I'm on these antidepressants. Like, I can't get that out of my system. And I had that moment in which I went, do not let this be one of those shows where they say, I can't be creative. I can't get in touch with my art, with my muse, with my inspiration if I'm on these depressants. I can't do that. Do not do that. That
does not work.
That is such a hurtful message. And I love that there comes the moment in which she has that thought, she goes off the antidepressants, and now she is breaking down crying, she's vomiting, and she still can't write. She still can't get it out of her. It came in here and said, the antidepressants are not what's doing this. Get back on them now. They are good for you. They are helping. The reason you can't write this out has nothing to do with that. So that's a very positive message that they put that in here. But at the end, she like goes off one day when she just can't write, and she just out of nowhere writes this teenage detective, like food court detective, like Nancy Drew style book, and she goes, what the fuck even is this? Why am I writing this? I need to get back to my depressing life story. And then her boyfriend sees how messed up she is, so he submits the pages she wrote for the teenage detective story, and everybody loves it and everybody wants it. And she says, no, I don't want to write that. I need to write about the terrible things that happened to me because I lived through these terrible things and I suffered so much. And if I can't get something out of that, then what was the point of any of that? And they basically say, maybe there wasn't a point. Maybe it just happened. And I love that they came in here and made, okay, hold on. I love that that was the first half of the message. Because that's a very bold but very real message. Because I feel like a lot of people out there do feel like I had a terrible thing happen to me. It had to have had a reason. And this show, it very much is just, hey man, this is what life is. And this show came in here and said, this is life. Sometimes shitty things happen for no reason. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. Sometimes life just sucks. And you don't get anything out of that. You don't progress. You don't grow. It doesn't mean anything to you. In fact, sometimes it hurts you in ways. And I'm sorry, but that's just what happens. And she says, well, I was always hoping that I could write this down and it would help someone out there like me who is going through these terrible things. And Princess Carolyn says, maybe this book can. The teenage girl detective book. And at the end of this, we see like her at a book signing, like we see little girls coming up happy to read this book. And I love that this came in here and the message of it was, sometimes a bad thing will happen to you and there's no reason for it and there's no purpose for it. It was just there because it sucks. And that feels like a hurtful message. That feels like the last thing in the world that you should tell someone going through a terrible thing. But the message is, now that you've accepted that just a shitty thing happened to you, now you can start to move on.
Yeah. Like
and
basically,
that's the important message.
Like, your trauma does not define you.
Yes, your trauma doesn't define you and it doesn't prevent you from going on to do more. And I think that that is a very helpful message. Because a lot of people feel like this traumatic thing happened to me and it's just a terrible thing that happened to me, or I need to find something to do with this, like what Diane was going through. And I think that's so crazy that show came in here and just said, no, sometimes you can't do anything with the trauma. Sometimes it's just a terrible thing that happened and it haunts you. But you can go on and move past that and become something better than that and do better things beyond that. So the fact that Bojack did not get an ending, but Diane did, that is so important to me. I love that. Because at the end of this, Diane reveals, yeah, I got married to that wonderful guy that you saw, and I'm living in Houston. You know what? It's pretty good down in Houston. Because Chicago sucks in the winter. Why did they go to stay there? I love that line because I've been in Chicago in the winter. I've been in New York in the winter. I've been every northeastern city in the winter. Yeah, so, man, this show, it really is something special. But it's one of those endings to a show where I can't come in here like, wow, I was just floored away by this and that. Because the show was never about that. The show was always about sit with the stuff you've done. sit with it and improve day by day if you can. But you know what? It's life. You're not always going to improve day by day, but you just keep going on. Like, I feel like this is the perfect. You didn't see this one, but in like season 2, I believe. Season 2 ends with there had been this running thing of these. Wow, no pun intended. But there was a running gag of every time I showed Bojack's horse, there were these runners outside his house every morning. There were runners going across. The end of season 2 was the runner was this old chimpanzee, by the way. Like old capuchin monkey. Yeah, that's what it is. And the season ended with Bojack now out there running in the morning, and he's panting, and then he just collapsed on the ground. He's just staring up at the sky, just breathing heavily. And then this mysterious monkey man who had been there as a running gag, no lines or anything, just appears above him and goes, "It gets easier, but you gotta do it every day." And I always think about that as like, that's one of the best moments of this entire show. Like, it's one of those things that, man, you want to talk about one of those things. I don't believe in getting slogans or anything tattooed on me because who knows what my life philosophy might be 10 years from now. But if there was ever a phrase that I would get tattooed on me, it's "it gets easier, but you gotta do it every day." And at the end of this, it was like, yeah, all these other people, they did it every day. Bojack, you did not do it every day. Like, we want to point at you and say, like, yeah, but you really didn't. No, man, you didn't. And yeah, terrible things did happen to you, but terrible things happen to everybody in here. Most of them moved on. Most of them had other things happen. And I love the show as one to come in here and go, yeah, I know you might not feel good about what happened to Bojack at the end, but have you paid attention to Bojack?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what the show is.
Yeah, like...
But everybody else got something, and that's the important thing. Everybody else got something because everybody else tried.
like, the protagonist doesn't have to be a hero. Like, the protagonist is literally the character you follow in the series.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that they're good or anything like that. You just follow them.
There is such a thing as man versus man, and that's what this show is.
Man versus self, or...
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. my mistake is I just realized that is the other one. Is man versus man versus nature, man versus self. This was man versus self.
Or horse versus self.
Horse versus self. Horseman versus horseman. So yeah, the show, it was great, but it isn't one of those endings that you just come in here and is like, man, talk about this thing. It's one of those where it's like, you just gotta sit with that. You just gotta sit in the inky black goo of nothingness that was the ending of Bojack's story. Because it wasn't an ending.
Yeah.
It was just, his life's gonna go on.
And I was like, it's on to the next thing, and it's not the Bojack Horseman show.
Yeah. At least Margot Martindale got out of this okay. Wow, you want to talk about the MVP of this series. Not MVP as in gave the best performances, but came out of it in a way that will make everybody out there go, oh, okay, I'm now going to pay attention to you. I never cared about Margot Martindale before this show, but she had one of the weirdest running character arcs of this entire series. This thing was nuts what it did with Margot Martindale. Which there's a line from seasons 5, I want to say, in which is Margot Martindale driving off in a car, and she goes, when you get to heaven, ask for Margot Martindale. I won't be there, but my movies will be. And Netflix's Twitter account tweeted out, reblog this if you think Margot Martindale should make this her Twitter bio. And Margot Martindale responded, give us season 7 and we'll talk. Because, yeah, Netflix canceled this because the animators got unionized, which is really shitty. Yeah, at the end of this, I do have to look at it still and just be like, I think they also wanted to end this way so that they could possibly have a season 7. Like, there is part of me that thinks that's why it ended this way. Not because it was the overall theme, but because they're like, hey man, if we do have a season 7, we can do even more stuff. Like, it's still open, but it's one of those genius things that even if they don't get a season 7, this ending does kind of tie into, the theme. And the theme was life sucks and then you keep living. But that's it. You got anything else to say?
No, not really.
Yeah, we have now talked for about 2 hours about TV show finales that were super dramatic, and my throat is destroyed. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Come back this weekend for the Birds of Prey review, and we'll see you then. Bye, everyone.
Bye.